Ancient engineers created inventions so advanced they rival our own technology, yet vanished without a trace. We are exploring 30 obscure innovations from lost civilizations that were centuries ahead of their time. These forgotten marvels continue to baffle historians and inspire modern scientists. You will discover how ancient astronomers built precision devices to track the stars and how engineers developed materials stronger than what we use today. How did a 2,000-year-old battery generate electricity, and why did a terrifying weapon that burned on water disappear from history? What do you believe is possible when human ingenuity meets forgotten knowledge? Buried in the wreckage of a sunken Roman ship for 2,000 years, a corroded lump of bronze and wood held a secret that would rewrite history. When divers discovered it off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera in the early 20th century, they had no idea what they had found. It was not until decades later that X-ray technology revealed the truth. Inside was an intricate clockwork of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, a device of such staggering complexity that it should not have existed for another 1,000 years. This is the Antikythera Mechanism, the world's first known analog computer. By turning a hand crank, an ancient user could calculate the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets with astonishing precision. It could predict lunar and solar eclipses, and it even tracked the 4-year cycle of the Olympic Games. This was not a toy for the wealthy. It was a sophisticated instrument of science and ceremony, born from a profound understanding of mathematics and celestial mechanics. Its very existence forces us to question the entire narrative of human technological progress. How could such advanced engineering simply vanish from the historical record for centuries, only to be reinvented in the clockwork of medieval Europe? The mechanism stands as a silent, bronze testament to a level of genius we are only just beginning to comprehend. The same question of vanished genius echoes from a different corner of the ancient world. In the 1930s, a discovery was made outside Baghdad that was far less intricate than the Antikythera mechanism, yet just as electrically charged. Workers excavating for a railway stumbled upon a simple clay jar, roughly the size of a man's fist, sealed with an asphalt plug. Inside, they found a rolled copper sheet housing an iron rod. To the untrained eye, it was just a curious, ancient container, but to a modern scientist, it looked unmistakably like the components of a battery. This is the Baghdad Battery. If you were to fill that jar with an acidic liquid, something as common as vinegar or citrus juice, a chemical reaction would occur. The acidic electrolyte would interact with the 2 different metals, causing electrons to flow from the iron rod to the copper cylinder through the liquid. This would generate a small but consistent electric current, around 1 volt of electricity. That is enough power to make a small light bulb glow, or, more intriguingly, to electroplate one metal with another. The artifact dates back nearly 2,000 years to the Parthian or Sassanid empires. What could this primitive power cell have been used for? Some theorists suggest it was a tool for ancient jewelers, a way to electroplate silver or gold onto other metals to create intricate gilded objects. Others propose a more mystical purpose, that the gentle tingle of current from the jar may have been used in religious ceremonies, a shocking demonstration of a priest's divine connection. While its exact purpose is still hotly debated among archaeologists, its very existence is undeniable. It proves that the fundamental principles of electrochemistry were not discovered by Alessandro Volta in the 19th century. They were being tinkered with and potentially applied in workshops and temples millennia earlier. This unassuming pot of clay, copper, and iron forces us to unplug our modern assumptions about the timeline of innovation. It suggests that the spark of discovery has been igniting for far longer than we ever believed. But that same spark of invention could also forge a weapon of terrifying power. Centuries after the Baghdad Battery, a different kind of chemical mastery emerged from the crucible of war, one that would dominate the seas for hundreds of years. Imagine a liquid flame that could not be extinguished by water, a hellish substance that clung to the wooden hulls of ships and turned the very ocean into a blazing inferno. This was Greek fire, the Byzantine Empire's most closely guarded and devastating secret. Its exact formula was known only to a select few, perhaps even the emperor and a single family of chemists, and it was so effective that its mystery was protected on pain of death. Historical accounts describe it being launched from bronze tubes mounted on the prows of Byzantine warships, roaring across the waves like the breath of a dragon. Sailors who faced it spoke of it with sheer terror, as water seemed only to spread the flames further. Modern chemists have theories about its composition, suggesting it was a volatile cocktail of crude petroleum, quicklime which ignites on contact with water, and possibly other secret ingredients like resin or sulfur to make it sticky and intensify the burn. This gave the outnumbered Byzantine navy an almost mythical advantage, allowing them to repeatedly crush invading fleets and preserve their empire for centuries. The true recipe, however, died with the Byzantines themselves. All attempts to recreate it have failed to match the terrifying descriptions from history. Greek fire stands as the ultimate symbol of how a single technological breakthrough, born from absolute necessity, can alter the destiny of civilizations. And it shows just how fragile our hold on knowledge truly is, how a discovery that once decided the fate of empires can simply vanish into the ashes of time, leaving behind only legends and a haunting question. What other secrets equally powerful have we forgotten forever? While empires rose and fell on the strength of their weapons, the true measure of a civilization's genius is often found in what it builds to last. Out of all the marvels left behind by the ancient world, perhaps the most humble is also the most enduring: Roman concrete. Look at the Pantheon in Rome, its vast, unsupported dome still the largest of its kind in the world after nearly 2,000 years. Or walk beneath the towering arches of an ancient Roman aqueduct, structures that have carried water for centuries while modern bridges crumble after just a few decades. Their secret was not magic but a revolutionary recipe lost to time. Modern concrete, which we rely on for everything from our homes to our skyscrapers, is designed to be strong but has a critical weakness: water. Over time, water seeps in, causing cracks to form and the steel reinforcements inside to rust and expand, leading to inevitable decay. The Roman formula was different and brilliantly simple. They mixed lime with volcanic ash, particularly from a region near Pozzuoli, and then added chunks of volcanic rock. The final, crucial ingredient was not fresh water, but seawater. When this mixture was poured, a remarkable chemical process began: the pozzolanic reaction. Instead of just drying out, the seawater triggered a long-term reaction within the volcanic materials, creating rare, sturdy crystals that actually fill in any microcracks that form over centuries. This means Roman concrete does not just resist erosion, it actively heals itself, becoming stronger with the passage of time. Modern scientists, baffled by this longevity, have only recently begun to unravel its molecular secrets, hoping to reverse engineer this ancient technology to create more sustainable, self-repairing infrastructure for our future. It is a stunning paradox that in our race for progress, we are looking backward 2 millennia to find a better way to build forward. The Romans solved a problem we are still struggling with today, proving that the most advanced solution is not always the newest one, but sometimes the one that has already withstood the test of time. Yet the most breathtaking ancient designs were not built to last, but to be seen from the heavens. Far to the south, on the high plains of Peru, an entire civilization turned the desert itself into their canvas. Stretching across nearly 200 square miles of the Nazca Desert are hundreds of immense lines and figures, so vast they defy comprehension from the ground. These are the Nazca Lines, etched into the dark, rocky surface of the desert over 2,000 years ago. They reveal a lighter-colored soil beneath. From the earth, you would see only a few shallow grooves in the ground, a puzzling network of pathways leading to nowhere. But from the air, the true masterpiece is revealed, a sprawling gallery of staggering precision. A hummingbird with wings outstretched, a spider over 150 feet long, a monkey with an intricately coiled tail, and a mysterious humanoid figure often called the astronaut, all drawn on a scale that seems impossible for a people without flight. How did they achieve such accuracy? The Nazca people possessed no advanced technology, no satellites, no drones. Their tools were simple sticks, ropes, and an unwavering knowledge of mathematics and geometry. Archaeologists believe they designed the figures on a smaller scale first, perhaps using a grid system, and then scaled them up with painstaking care. Teams of workers would have carefully removed the dark, sun-baked top layer of stones to expose the lighter sand below, creating lines that have been preserved for centuries by the region's unique climate, one of the driest and most windless places on Earth. But the how is only half the mystery. The true enigma is the why. Why would a people create art so immense they could never see it in its entirety? Some researchers propose an astronomical purpose, that the lines pointed to celestial bodies or marked solstices, turning the desert into a giant observatory. Others suggest they were sacred pathways for religious processions, or even intricate maps pointing to underground water sources in the arid landscape. The most enduring theory is that they were meant for the gods, a message or offering etched into the very skin of the earth, meant only to be viewed from above. The Nazca Lines stand as a powerful testament to human ambition, a permanent question mark drawn across the desert floor. They challenge our very definition of art and purpose, proving that the drive to create, to communicate something monumental, is a force that transcends time and technology. While the Nazca etched their message into the earth for the gods to see, another civilization encoded its secrets onto a small, handheld object meant for human hands alone. Deep within the ruins of the Minoan palace of Phaistos on the island of Crete, an Italian archaeologist made a baffling discovery in 1908. It was not a grand statue or a golden treasure, but a simple, fired clay disc about 6 inches in diameter. Both of its faces were covered from the outer edge to the center in a tight spiral of mysterious symbols. There were 45 distinct signs, everything from human figures and birds to ships and abstract shapes, all perfectly stamped into the clay while it was still soft. This is the Phaistos Disc, and it is the world's oldest known example of movable type printing, a technology we would not see again for another 3,000 years. Each symbol was made using a separate seal, a sort of prehistoric stamp, pressed into the clay in a deliberate sequence. Someone in the 17th century before the Common Era had a set of these stamps and used them to compose a message. But what did it say? The script is unique, found nowhere else on Earth, and despite over a century of effort by the world's best linguists and cryptographers, its code remains unbroken. Is it a prayer to a forgotten god, a list of trading goods, a historical record of a king, or perhaps a piece of poetry? We simply do not know. The very existence of this object shatters our timeline for the invention of printing. It implies a level of administrative or literary sophistication in the Minoan Bronze Age that we never suspected. a system of communication so efficient it required a reusable, standardized technology to produce it. The Phaistos Disc is a locked door from the ancient world, and we have yet to find the key. It is a haunting reminder that an entire language, a culture's way of thought, can vanish into silence, leaving behind only a circle of clay covered in beautiful, frustrating, and utterly silent symbols. While the Phaistos Disc remains a silent mystery, some ancient innovations are slowly giving up their secrets, revealing a genius born from pure necessity. For the Vikings, that necessity was crossing the treacherous, sunless North Atlantic. Their legendary sagas spoke of a magical tool, a solar stein or sunstone, a crystal that could capture the sun's location even on the gloomiest, overcast days. For centuries, historians dismissed this as pure myth, a fanciful tale of magic, but modern science has uncovered a stunning truth behind the legend. Researchers now believe the sunstone was likely a piece of transparent calcite or cordierite, minerals common in Scandinavia. These crystals have a unique property called birefringence. They polarize light. By holding such a crystal up to the sky and rotating it slowly, a Viking navigator could detect patterns of light and dark within the stone. By finding the angle where these patterns aligned, they could pinpoint the exact position of the hidden sun, even through dense cloud cover or just after sunset. This gave them a reliable reference point, a fixed bearing to steer their longships toward Greenland or North America, with an accuracy that seemed impossible for the era. Experimental archaeologists have put this theory to the test, using replicas of these crystals on voyages. The results are undeniable. The method works with remarkable precision. This was not magic, it was a profound and intuitive application of physics, a perfect marriage of keen observation and the natural world. The Vikings did not need a complex magnetic compass because they had learned to read the very light in the sky itself. The sunstone stands as a powerful symbol of how ancient peoples turned their deep understanding of nature's hidden rhythms into world-changing technology, proving that the line between myth and reality is often thinner than we think. Far to the south, in the soaring heights of the Andes, an empire of immense complexity was run not with pen and paper, but with string. The Inca, masters of a territory stretching over 2,000 miles, governed millions of people without a written language as we know it. Their entire administrative system, the very backbone of their empire, was built upon an ingenious and beautiful device, the quipu. At first glance, a quipu appears to be little more than a collection of colorful hanging cords, a fringe of tangled threads. But each element was a precise unit of information. The main cord served as the primary spine, from which dozens of pendant cords were suspended. The type of knot, its specific position on the cord, the color of the string itself, and even the spin direction of the fibers, all of it held meaning. A decimal system was at its heart, with different knot types representing ones, tens, hundreds, and thousands. With these, Inca administrators, known as Quipucamayos, could record vast quantities of data, from census numbers and tax obligations to the immense stores of food in their granaries. They could track the movement of armies across the empire's vast road network and manage the distribution of supplies with an efficiency that rivaled any medieval European kingdom. But was it merely an accounting tool, a prehistoric spreadsheet made of cotton and wool? Some researchers now believe certain quipus, particularly those with more complex color patterns and knot combinations, may have recorded narratives, histories, and even poetry, encoding stories and laws in a three-dimensional language we can no longer read. The Spanish conquistadors, upon encountering them, failed to recognize their sophistication, dismissing them as primitive curiosities and systematically destroying thousands in their campaign to dismantle Inca culture. Today, only about 1,000 quipus survive, and their deeper codes remain locked away, a testament to a completely different way of thinking about information, one that challenges our very definition of writing and reminds us that intelligence is not confined to the flat page. While the Inca used knots to manage their empire, a Han Dynasty inventor looked to the heavens for a different kind of order, one that could predict the chaos unfolding deep within the earth itself. In the year 132 of the Common Era, the brilliant court astronomer Heng presented the emperor with a magnificent and mysterious object, a large bronze vessel adorned with 8 dragons, each facing a cardinal direction. Below each dragon sat a bronze frog with its mouth open, waiting. This was not a ceremonial urn or a simple work of art. It was the world's first seismoscope, a machine designed to detect earthquakes from hundreds of miles away. The principle was one of breathtaking elegance. Inside the vessel, Heng had suspended a delicate inverted pendulum, perfectly balanced. When the faintest tremors from a distant quake traveled through the ground, they would reach the instrument and disturb this precise balance. The pendulum would sway, triggering a clever series of internal levers. This mechanism would cause just one of the 8 dragons to release a heavy bronze ball held in its jaws. The ball would drop with a loud clang directly into the mouth of the frog waiting below, announcing not only that an earthquake had occurred but, crucially, pointing to the direction from which the tremors originated. Historical records tell us the court was once skeptically notified by the device of a quake to the west. Several days later, a messenger arrived from a province hundreds of miles away, confirming a devastating earthquake had struck on the exact day and in the very direction the dragon had indicated. For centuries, scholars debated how such a device could possibly work, dismissing it as legend. But modern engineers, using the materials and technology available to Heng, have built working replicas. They have proven the design is not only feasible but remarkably effective, a testament to an intuitive understanding of physics and vibrational energy that was centuries ahead of its time. This was more than an early warning system. It was a fundamental shift in thinking. It moved the earthquake from the realm of divine punishment into the domain of natural phenomena that could be measured, understood, and anticipated. Heng's seismoscope stands as a powerful symbol of humanity's enduring quest to read the invisible signs of our planet, to listen to the Earth's deep rumblings, and in doing so, perhaps gain a precious moment to prepare for what is to come. A different kind of precision was being carved from solid granite under the relentless Egyptian sun. Towering obelisks, some reaching heights of over 100 feet and weighing more than 400 tons, were not merely symbols of pharaonic power. They were the ancient world's most sophisticated and durable scientific instruments. To the naked eye, they were monolithic declarations of a god-king's authority, their peaks sheathed in a dazzling alloy of gold and silver called electrum to catch the first and last rays of the sun. But their true genius lay in the long, dark shadow they cast across the sand. Each obelisk was a giant, immovable sundial. By meticulously tracking the movement and length of its shadow throughout the day, Egyptian priests and astronomers could partition the daylight into precise hours. The shifting angles of the shadow over the course of a year marked the solstices and equinoxes, creating a celestial calendar that dictated the timing of planting, harvest, and religious festivals. This required an almost unimaginable precision in their placement, aligned to true north with an accuracy that still baffles modern surveyors. The sheer audacity of their construction and transportation is a marvel of logistics that would challenge engineers even today. Quarrying a single, flawless piece of pink Aswan granite was a monumental task in itself. Then came the journey, moving this colossal stone needle on wooden sledges greased with water, loading it onto a specially built barge and sailing it down the Nile, a feat of coordination and brute force. But their purpose was more than just practical or political. These stone needles were spiritual conduits, believed to physically connect the earthbound pharaoh to the sun god Ra himself, a permanent bridge between the mortal realm and the cosmos. In the obelisk, we see the complete fusion of ancient intellect, a single object that served as timekeeper, calendar, navigational aid, political proclamation, and sacred monument. They stand today in the heart of modern cities like London and New York as silent stone sentinels from a civilization that saw no boundary between ruling the earth and reading the heavens. While the Egyptians built monuments to touch the sun, a far smaller and more personal discovery reveals an ancient desire not just to observe light, but to bend it to human will. In the ruins of the Assyrian palace at Nimrud, a clear, carefully ground piece of rock crystal was unearthed. This is the Nimrud Lens, a 3,000-year-old artifact that looks like it could have fallen from a modern pair of spectacles. Dated to around 750 years before the Common Era, this oval-shaped crystal is slightly convex, polished to a fine clarity. Its purpose remains one of archaeology's quiet, persistent puzzles. The most straightforward theory is that it was a simple magnifying glass. An Assyrian craftsman or scribe, perhaps with failing eyesight, could have used it to illuminate the finest details of their work, to inspect the intricate carvings on a seal, or to trace the delicate cuneiform characters pressed into a wet clay tablet. But its shape also makes it a perfect burning glass. Held at the correct angle under the fierce Mesopotamian sun, it would have focused the rays into a single, intensely hot point of light, capable of igniting tinder and starting a fire with what would have seemed like magical ease. This practical application alone would have been a marvel of its age, yet some researchers look at its precise craftsmanship and suggest a far more ambitious use. Could this lens have been part of a primitive telescope, helping ancient astronomers peer just a little deeper into the night sky, to bring the craters of the moon or the wanderings of planets into sharper focus? We may never know its true purpose for certain, as it was found not in an observatory but amidst other palace treasures. But its very existence is undeniable proof that the fundamental principles of optics were not discovered in a European workshop during the Renaissance. They were being explored, understood, and applied 1,000 years earlier in the bustling, sophisticated cities of Mesopotamia. This small circle of crystal is a window into a lost world of inquiry, a testament to the timeless human urge to see the world more clearly, to focus not just light but the very lens of understanding itself. While a single lens could sharpen vision, an entire civilization was mastering the flow of water itself on a scale that would not be seen again for millennia. In the vast, baked-earth ruins of Mohenjo-Daro, part of the Indus Valley civilization, archaeologists uncovered a marvel that had nothing to do with gold or gods, but with something far more critical to human survival: public health. This was a city of bathrooms and sewers, a metropolis that understood urban planning over 4,000 years ago in a way that would shame many 19th-century European capitals. Almost every house was connected to a city-wide covered drainage system. They built indoor bathrooms with bricks set in precise patterns to channel water, and toilets that emptied into these sophisticated sewers running beneath the main streets. These were not open gutters. They were carefully constructed from standardized kiln-fired bricks, covered with stone slabs for easy access and cleaning, and designed with a gentle slope so that gravity would pull waste and rainwater efficiently out of the city. They even featured clever traps and drains to prevent backflow and blockages, a simple yet brilliant innovation to control odors and pests. This was not a luxury reserved for the elite. The consistent, widespread presence of this infrastructure points to a remarkable societal value, a collective commitment to cleanliness and communal well-being that is staggering for its time. While contemporaries in Mesopotamia and Egypt were building towering ziggurats and pyramids, the people of the Indus Valley were investing their genius underground in a network that prevented flooding and the spread of waterborne diseases. They engineered their entire city to work in harmony with the environment, managing water not as a threat to be held back, but as a resource to be channeled and controlled for the health of every citizen. This profound grasp of urban sustainability challenges every assumption we have about so-called primitive societies. It presents a vision of ancient life that was not just organized but consciously, deliberately healthy, a lost standard of living that some parts of our modern world have yet to achieve. This mastery of time required a mathematical language of breathtaking complexity. The Maya did not simply count the days, they wove them into a grand cosmic tapestry using 3 distinct, interlocking calendars. The first, the Hab, was a 365-day solar year, a practical guide for agriculture and the changing seasons. The second, the Tzolk'in, was a 260-day sacred cycle, a spiritual wheel of fortune that dictated the rhythm of rituals and ceremonies. But the true stroke of genius was the long count, a linear calendar that measured vast expanses of time from a fixed starting point, a mythical day zero far in the distant past. This allowed Mayan astronomers and priests to calculate dates over millions of years with pinpoint accuracy. They tracked the movements of Venus with an error of just 2 hours over 500 years, predicted solar eclipses, and understood the cycles of the moon with a precision that would not be matched in Europe for centuries. How did they achieve this without telescopes or advanced optics? Their tools were their eyes, their minds, and a revolutionary mathematical concept, the explicit use of zero. This abstract idea, which would not appear in Europe for nearly another millennium, was the cornerstone of their entire calendrical system, allowing for the place notation needed to handle such enormous numbers. A date was not just a number on a page, it was a unique combination of all 3 cycles, a moment in time with its own specific spiritual and practical meaning. This intricate system governed everything from when a farmer should plant his crops to when a king should wage war, weaving astronomy, mathematics, religion, and daily life into a single, unified vision of existence. The Maya understood time not as a simple, empty line to be measured, but as a rich, layered story in which humanity played an active part. Their calendars were not just tools for tracking the heavens, they were a map of reality itself, a profound attempt to find order and meaning in the infinite flow of the cosmos. Beneath the sun-scorched deserts of ancient Persia, a hidden network of veins carried the lifeblood of an empire. This was the Qanat, a masterpiece of hydrological engineering that turned barren lands into fertile oases. The system began with the discovery of an underground aquifer, often at the foot of a mountain range where water seeped from the rock. From this mother well, Persian engineers did not dig down, but instead tunneled horizontally, with a slope so gentle it was barely perceptible. This was the Qanat's genius, a gravity-fed channel that allowed water to flow effortlessly for miles without a single pump. A series of vertical access shafts were dug along the tunnel's path, not only for removing excavated earth but for maintenance and ventilation, creating a dotted line of wells across the desert surface that marked the water's hidden journey. This was not a project for a single lifetime. Communities would maintain and extend these tunnels for generations, a testament to their profound value. The cool, clean water that emerged at the tunnel's end, often into a communal pool or garden, was more than a resource. It was the foundation of civilization in an unforgiving climate. It allowed cities like Tehran to flourish and supported vast agricultural regions, enabling the Persian Empire to thrive where others could scarcely survive. The technology was so effective it spread along trade routes, from the oases of North Africa to the arid stretches of Spain, and even to the Americas. Astonishingly, many of these ancient Qanats, some over 3,000 years old, are still in use today, delivering water with the same quiet efficiency they did millennia ago. They stand as a powerful lesson in sustainability, a model of working with the Earth's natural systems rather than fighting against them. In a world now facing severe water shortages, this ancient invention offers a timeless blueprint, proving that the most enduring solutions are often those that flow in harmony with the planet. While the Persians mastered the flow of water, a Greek inventor in Roman Egypt learned to harness its vapor. In the 1st century of the Common Era, inside the Great Library of Alexandria, a brilliant mind named Hero assembled a deceptively simple device from bronze and fire. He called it an Aeolipile. At its heart was a hollow metal sphere suspended between two pipes that fed it steam from a boiling kettle below. Two more pipes, bent into elegant L shapes, jutted from opposite sides of the sphere. As the water boiled, steam rushed up through the support pipes, filled the sphere, and then violently escaped through the two bent nozzles. The force of that exiting steam jet, pushing against the air, caused the entire sphere to whirl on its axis, faster and faster until it became a spinning, hissing, mesmerizing blur of metal. This was not just a philosophical toy. It was the world's first working steam engine, a stunningly clear demonstration of the principles of action and reaction that would not be formally defined by Isaac Newton for another 1,600 years. Hero had unlocked the fundamental concept of jet propulsion. He understood thermodynamics and mechanical force with a clarity that was utterly revolutionary for his time. Yet, that is where the story stops. The Aeolipile was never connected to a wheel, never used to grind grain or pump water. To the Romans, it remained a temple wonder, a fascinating curiosity to be displayed and then forgotten. The immense potential of steam power simply vanished, a seed of genius that would lie dormant for over a millennium and a half until it was rediscovered and finally planted in the fertile soil of the Industrial Revolution. The Aeolipile stands as a haunting monument to a road not taken. It forces us to ask a difficult question, not about the limits of ancient ingenuity, but about the conditions that allow a brilliant idea to catch fire and change the world. What if the Romans had seen its potential? How different might our history be if that spinning sphere had been recognized not as a novelty, but as the key to a new age of power? Deep within the libraries of the Han Dynasty, a different kind of magic was taking shape, one that would eventually guide humanity across the entire globe. Court diviners seeking harmony between earth and heaven would carefully polish a spoon made of lodestone, a naturally magnetic mineral, and place it upon a bronze plate. They called it a south pointer. When released, the spoon would spin, its handle always coming to rest unerringly, pointing toward the south. This was not yet a tool for sailors, but a sacred instrument for aligning buildings with cosmic forces and for telling the future, a cornerstone of the ancient practice of feng shui. The very nature of this mysterious force that pulled the spoon was a profound puzzle, an invisible hand guiding the mineral toward celestial order. It would take nearly 1,000 years for this mystical device to find its true calling on the open sea. By the 11th century, during the Song dynasty, Chinese navigators had transformed the diviner's bronze plate into a floating compass. They would magnetize a needle by stroking it with a lodestone, then place it delicately on a reed or a piece of wood floating in a bowl of water. There, freed from friction, the needle would align itself with the Earth's magnetic poles, creating a reliable, portable guide. This simple yet revolutionary shift changed everything. Suddenly, a ship's captain could know his direction even when the stars were shrouded by cloud or fog, even in the broad daylight of an empty ocean. It was a liberation from the coastline, a key that unlocked the deep blue unknown. This Chinese invention did not just guide ships, it guided history itself, fueling an explosion of maritime trade that connected the East to the West. It allowed for the precise mapping of sea routes, the safe passage of treasure fleets, and the flow of goods, ideas, and cultures across vast distances. The compass journey from a sacred object in a philosopher's hand to the most trusted instrument on a sailor's deck is a perfect story of human progress. It shows us that discovery often begins not with a practical need, but with a sense of wonder, a desire to understand the hidden forces that weave through our world, and that the line between mystical art and precise science is often just a matter of time and perspective. Yet the comfort of a Han Dynasty diviner in his warm library was nothing compared to the luxurious, all-encompassing heat enjoyed by a Roman citizen hundreds of years earlier. While much of the ancient world shivered through winter nights, the Romans engineered a solution so effective it would not be widely replicated until the 19th century. Step inside a wealthy Roman's villa on a chilly afternoon, and you would feel not a draft, but a gentle, radiant warmth rising from the mosaic floor beneath your feet. This was the Hypocaust, the world's first central heating system. Its brilliance lay in its elegant simplicity. In a basement furnace room, slaves or servants would maintain a roaring fire, burning wood or charcoal. But instead of letting the heat and smoke escape uselessly up a chimney, the Romans channeled it. The hot gases were forced through a network of hollow spaces meticulously built beneath the raised floor, which stood on short, sturdy pillars of brick. From there, the heat would travel further up through hollow rectangular tubes built right into the walls called box flues, before finally escaping through vents in the roof. The entire structure, from floor to ceiling, became a single, massive radiator, storing the heat and releasing it slowly and evenly throughout the day and night. This was not a luxury reserved for the private home. The great public bathhouses, the social hearts of Roman towns, all relied on vast hypocaust systems. In these complexes, engineers created a gradient of heat with a warm room, a hot room, and a steam room, each heated to a different temperature by controlling the flow of air from the furnaces below. The effect was transformative for public health and social life, providing a warm, clean space for relaxation and hygiene in colder climates like Britain or Germany. The system reflects a profound, practical understanding of thermodynamics and airflow that seems to defy its age. It was an invention born from a core Roman belief that a high quality of life was a right to be engineered and built, a testament to a civilization that did not just conquer nature, but sought to make a comfortable home within it. The Hypocaust's principles of radiant floor heating are used in modern green buildings today, a direct echo from 2,000 years ago, reminding us that true innovation is not always about creating something new, but sometimes about perfectly solving a human problem. But to truly understand the value of these objects, we must see them through ancient eyes. For the Egyptians, color was not merely decorative, it was a language of power and magic. The brilliant blue of Faience was a direct imitation of lapis lazuli and turquoise, stones imported at great cost from distant lands and associated with the heavens and the life-giving waters of the Nile. By creating this sacred color in their own workshops, Egyptian artisans were not just making jewelry, they were capturing a piece of the divine, making the power of the gods accessible and wearable. A simple blue amulet in the shape of a scarab beetle was not just a beautiful trinket, it was a potent charm for protection and rebirth in the afterlife. The vibrant green of a hippopotamus figurine represented the lush, fertile marshes of new life. Each color, each sheen, was a word in a visual vocabulary understood by everyone. The technology itself was a form of alchemy. Artisans would grind quartz sand into a fine powder and mix it with alkaline salts, often derived from natron, the same mineral used in mummification. They would then add minute amounts of metal oxides for color, copper for that famous Egyptian blue, manganese for a deep black, or iron for a rich green. This paste was molded into its desired shape, perhaps a delicate bead or a Ushabti figure destined for a tomb. As it dried, the salts would rise to the surface, and during firing in a simple, open kiln, they would melt into a sparkling, glassy glaze. The result was a self-glazing object, a core of slightly sintered quartz covered in a thin, dazzling layer of colored glass. This was not pottery, and it was not true glass, but something entirely its own, a material that transformed humble desert sand into a symbol of eternity. The knowledge spread from Egypt throughout the Mediterranean and the Near East, a prized secret carried along trade routes, influencing Minoan and Mycenaean artisans. Faience stands as a brilliant reminder that some of humanity's most profound inventions are born from the desire not just for function, but for beauty, meaning, and a connection to something greater than ourselves. Centuries before the Romans channeled steam or the Chinese harnessed magnetism, a different kind of transformation was taking root in the humid lowlands of Mesoamerica. There, the Olmec civilization, often called the mother culture of the Americas, unlocked a secret from the jungle that would remain unmatched for over 3,000 years. They learned to turn a sticky, white sap into rubber. The raw material was latex harvested from the Castilla elastica tree. In its natural state, this sap is fragile. It becomes brittle when cold and sticky when warm, seemingly useless for anything more than glue. But the Olmecs discovered that by mixing this raw latex with the juice of the morning glory vine, something magical happened. They were performing vulcanization, a chemical process that Charles Goodyear would famously patent in the 19th century. The sulfur in the morning glory juice created cross-links between the long polymer chains in the latex, fundamentally altering its properties. The resulting material was strong, elastic, bouncy, and incredibly durable. They would shape this new substance into solid rubber balls, some the size of basketballs, for a ritual sport that was far more than a game. They crafted waterproof seals for their containers, made durable sandals for walking long distances, and even fashioned curious, hollow rubber figurines that were likely used in religious ceremonies. The ball game itself was a central pillar of Mesoamerican life, a spectacle of athleticism that held deep cosmological meaning. The bouncing of the rubber ball in a stone court mirrored the movement of the sun and stars across the heavens, a ritual reenactment of the cosmic struggle between light and darkness, life and death. This was not a pastime, it was a sacred drama where the outcome could influence the fate of the community, sometimes even involving human sacrifice. The Olmecs did not just invent a new material, they wove it into the very fabric of their society, blending utility, spirituality, and sport into a single, resilient creation. Their innovation stands as a powerful testament to human ingenuity, proving that the most advanced technologies are not always built from metal or stone, but can be cultivated quite literally from the living forest itself. This ancient mastery of chemistry gave rise to objects that seemed to defy time itself. In a quiet corner of Delhi, a 23-foot-tall iron pillar has stood completely exposed to the elements for over 1,600 years. Monsoons have drenched it, scorching summers have baked it, and polluted city air has swirled around it for centuries. Yet its surface remains smooth, uncorrupted by the rust that should have consumed it ages ago. This is the Iron Pillar of Delhi, and its pristine condition is a metallurgical miracle that continues to baffle scientists. Forged in the 4th century during the Gupta Empire, the pillar is a testament to a lost art of ironworking. Modern analysis has revealed its secret: a surprisingly high phosphorus content and a very low sulfur and manganese content. Ancient Indian smiths achieved this through a unique smelting process, using a specific type of iron ore and charcoal in a clay furnace that allowed phosphorus from the fuel to be absorbed into the metal. As the hot iron was hammered and forged by skilled artisans, this phosphorus, along with iron oxides and slag particles, created a thin, invisible protective barrier called a passive film. This film acts as a shield, preventing oxygen and moisture from reaching the pure iron beneath, effectively making the pillar rust-proof. It is a perfect, self-maintaining protection system engineered into the very structure of the metal. But the pillar is more than a feat of chemistry. It is also a work of astronomical precision. The skill required to forge such a massive, single piece of iron, over 6 tons, is staggering enough. But many researchers believe it was originally erected as a giant astronomical instrument, perhaps a sundial gnomon designed to accurately track the shadow of the sun. It was later moved and dedicated to the Hindu god Vishnu, its Sanskrit inscription speaking of a king who conquered the world. It became a symbol, a seamless fusion of scientific understanding and spiritual devotion, a monument that measured both the heavens and the might of an empire. Today, it stands not just as a curious artifact, but as a quiet, enduring challenge. It asks us how a civilization without modern laboratories could achieve a corrosion-resistant alloy that our own industry struggles to replicate on such a scale. It is a metaphor written in iron, a story of human ingenuity that has proven to be as resilient as the metal itself. Far beneath the feet of bustling Minoan courtiers, another kind of genius was flowing through the walls. While the Phaistos Disc encoded its silent language above ground, the Palace of Knossos was animated by a hidden hydraulic heartbeat. This was not a society that merely thought in symbols, but one that engineered its entire existence around health and comfort. Around the year 2000 before the Common Era, while many in Europe were living in simple settlements, the Minoans were mastering the flow of water with a sophistication that would not be seen again for over a millennium. They constructed an intricate network of terracotta pipes, meticulously designed to bring fresh water into the vast, multi-storied palace and to carry waste away. These were not crude clay channels. The pipes were expertly crafted in tapered, conical sections that fit snugly into one another, and the joints were sealed to prevent leaks, a simple yet brilliant design that allowed for easy maintenance and replacement. Gravity did all the work, channeling fresh spring water from the surrounding hills through this underground labyrinth to supply ornate fountains, spacious bathing areas, and even rooms with what can only be described as the world's first flush toilets. These ancient water closets featured a wooden seat mounted over a terra-cotta conduit, and by pouring a bucket of water down the drain, waste would be swiftly carried away through the palace's closed sewer system. This was not a luxury for the king alone. The scale of the plumbing suggests that hygiene and sanitation were valued throughout the complex, supporting a large population of priests, administrators, artisans, and servants. The entire design reveals a profound, practical understanding of hydraulics and public health that seems to defy its Bronze Age context. It presents a vision of ancient life that was not just grand and wealthy, but consciously clean and convenient. The Minoans did not see infrastructure as something separate from civilization. It was the very foundation of it. Their innovations force us to abandon every dusty stereotype of the primitive past reminding us that the desire for a healthy, comfortable life is a timeless human drive, and that progress is not always a straight line forward, but sometimes a circle, waiting for us to rediscover what was once known. The same desire to preserve thought that drove the Minoans to build with clay and water found its ultimate expression in a different medium, one so common today we scarcely give it a second thought. For millennia, humanity had recorded its laws, stories, and accounts on cumbersome clay tablets, fragile papyrus scrolls, or expensive silk. Then, in the 2nd century before the Common Era, a Han Dynasty court official named Kai Lun synthesized a revolutionary process. He presented the emperor with a new material, a thin, flexible, and incredibly durable sheet made from the beaten bark of mulberry trees, old rags, hemp, and fishnets. This was paper. Its creation was a masterpiece of alchemical engineering. Workers would first soak the raw fibers in water for weeks, allowing them to soften and break down. This soggy mass was then boiled into a pulpy slurry before being transferred to a large vat. A craftsman would dip a finely woven bamboo screen mold into this vat, lifting it out with a thin layer of fiber slurry evenly distributed across its surface. He would shake the mold, a delicate motion that locked the fibers together as the water drained away, leaving behind the nascent sheet of paper. This sheet was then pressed to remove even more water before being peeled off and hung to dry on a heated wall. The result was a uniform, strong, and astonishingly versatile surface for writing. This was not merely an incremental improvement, it was a quantum leap in information technology. Suddenly, the thoughts of a scholar or the edict of an emperor could be copied quickly, transported easily, and stored compactly. It democratized knowledge, making it cheaper and more accessible than ever before, fueling the expansion of the imperial bureaucracy and the spread of literacy and culture. The secret of papermaking traveled slowly along the Silk Road, a prized technology that would take over 1,000 years to reach Europe. Without this single, humble invention, the rapid spread of religions like Buddhism and Islam, the explosion of scientific thought during the Golden Age, and the later revolution of the printing press would have been impossible. It provided the very physical substrate for the collective human mind, a blank slate upon which we have been writing our shared story ever since. While paper carried the words of emperors, another empire was moving mountains to carry something far heavier. Long before the Romans became famous for their arched aqueducts, the Assyrian king Sennacherib gazed upon his capital, Nineveh, and envisioned a river flowing uphill. In the 8th century before the Common Era, his engineers achieved the impossible, constructing a vast system of canals and the world's first known limestone aqueduct to bring fresh water from mountain springs over 30 miles away. This was not a simple ditch. The jewel of this system was the Jerwan Aqueduct, a monumental elevated channel built from over 2 million precisely cut stones. Its true genius lay in a slope so perfectly calculated, a gradient of just 1 degree for every 360 feet, that water flowed smoothly and consistently across the entire distance, powered by nothing but gravity. To achieve this over such rugged terrain required a breathtaking mastery of surveying and mathematics. Assyrian engineers used water levels and sighting poles to chart the land's every contour, carving channels through bedrock and raising vast stone causeways across valleys to maintain that crucial, gentle downhill flow. This was not a vanity project, it was the lifeblood of an empire. The water transformed the arid plains around Nineveh into lush, productive farmland, feeding a population that may have reached 120,000 people, making it one of the largest cities in the world. It supplied gardens, stocked reservoirs for times of siege, and provided a new standard of public health. The entire endeavor speaks of a highly centralized and powerful state, one capable of mobilizing thousands of workers and vast resources for a project that served the common good. The Assyrians are often remembered for their military conquests, but their hydrological legacy is perhaps more profound. Their techniques, etched in stone, would later be adopted and refined by the engineers of Babylon, Persia, and eventually Rome. This chain of innovation reminds us that progress is rarely a single spark of genius, but more often a slow burning torch, passed from one civilization to the next, each adding its own light to the flame. Far to the north, in a world the Romans called barbaric, a different kind of time was being measured. In 1897, in a field near Coligny, France, a farmer's plow struck not a rock but a shattered bronze tablet. When pieced together, it revealed not a weapon or a tool, but a calendar. This was the Coligny Calendar, a 5-year liturgical masterpiece from the 2nd century, inscribed in the Gaulish language with Latin characters. It is a breathtakingly complex lunisolar system, an intricate dance between the cycles of the moon and the sun that the Celtic people orchestrated with mathematical grace. The calendar is divided into 62 months spread across those 5 years, each month marked as either auspicious or inauspicious, and each day within it notated with tiny marks that likely tracked lunar phases and important festival dates. This was not a simple farmer's almanac. It was the sacred rhythm of an entire society, synchronizing the practical needs of planting and harvest with the spiritual pulse of religious ceremonies and communal gatherings. Its very existence completely shatters the old notion that sophisticated astronomy was the sole domain of Mediterranean civilizations like the Romans and the Greeks. Here, in what was considered the hinterlands of the ancient world, was a system every bit as advanced and intellectually demanding. The Celtic Druids, the learned class who would have maintained this knowledge, were not wild shamans but precise astronomers and mathematicians. They understood the necessary intercalation, the insertion of extra months to keep their lunar calendar in step with the solar year, a problem that has challenged timekeepers throughout history. The Coligny Calendar invites us to expand our view of ancient genius beyond the marble temples of the south. It stands as a powerful, bronze testament to the fact that the human drive to map the cosmos, to find order in the turning of the heavens, was a universal impulse flowering in countless forms across the globe. Each culture looked up at the same stars and saw a different story, a different clock, a different way of belonging to time itself. The thunder of hooves and the rattle of wheels heralded a revolution in Bronze Age warfare. While other empires relied on heavy, lumbering carts, the Hittites of Anatolia perfected a machine of breathtaking agility and speed, the light chariot. This was not merely a vehicle, it was a mobile archery platform, a psychological weapon, and a symbol of imperial might. Its genius lay in a radical redesign. By ditching solid wooden discs for spoked wheels, Hittite engineers dramatically reduced weight. They crafted a lighter frame from bent wood and shifted the axle to the very rear of the chassis, creating a stable, nimble platform that could pivot and charge with astonishing quickness. A team of 2 horses could pull this streamlined machine at speeds that infantry could not hope to match. But the chariot's true power was realized by its crew, a driver who controlled the frantic team with expert skill, and a warrior, often a nobleman, who was free to unleash a storm of arrows or javelins while moving. This combination of speed and firepower allowed the Hittites to execute devastating hit-and-run tactics, outflanking slower enemy formations and sowing chaos before melting back into the dust. Their victory at the Battle of Kadesh, though ultimately indecisive, was a stark demonstration of this new form of mobile warfare, where the chariot corps could dominate the open battlefield. Beyond its military function, the chariot became a potent status symbol, a rolling declaration of wealth and power reserved for the elite. The intricate craftsmanship and the prized horses required to pull it made ownership a mark of high nobility. This technology did not stay secret for long. The design spread rapidly along trade routes, influencing the chariot cultures of the Egyptians, Mycenaeans, and Assyrians, effectively standardizing a new form of combat across empires. The principles behind this ancient innovation, the pursuit of lighter weight, greater speed, and improved maneuverability, are the very same forces that drive the evolution of our vehicles today, from the bicycle to the modern sports car. But the Hittite chariot's speed was useless without command, a need that found its answer centuries earlier in the dust of Mesopotamia. There, in the Fertile Crescent between two great rivers, a new technology was born not from the heat of battle, but from the dry logic of commerce. The world's first accountants were counting, and they needed a system to remember. Around 3,200 years before the Common Era, the Sumerians began pressing the ends of sharpened reeds into soft clay tablets, creating a series of simple wedge-shaped marks. This was cuneiform, humanity's first known system of writing. It began not with poetry or prayers, but with numbers and lists, a practical tool to track grain harvests, tally livestock, and record the flow of goods in and out of temple storehouses. A tablet might simply record that 10 sheep were delivered or 5 jars of oil were owed, but from these humble beginnings, something extraordinary happened. Those simple marks evolved, growing more complex and abstract. They began to represent not just numbers and objects, but sounds and ideas, blossoming into a full written language capable of capturing the full depth of human thought. Suddenly, a law decreed by a king in the city of could be read by an official in a distant town, ensuring consistency across an empire. The epic story of a hero like Gilgamesh, once fleeting words on a storyteller's lips, could now be preserved for eternity, his adventures etched into the very earth. A merchant's contract was no longer just a verbal agreement between two people, but a permanent record that could be enforced and referred to. This was a revolution in human consciousness, the moment we learned to externalize our memories, to freeze thought in time and space. Every email we send, every book we read, every law written in a massive legal code, all of it traces its lineage back to those first, cautious impressions in Mesopotamian clay. It reminds us that our greatest leaps forward often begin not with a grand vision, but with a simple, pressing need to remember. High on the sun-baked cliffs of the American Southwest, an entire civilization turned the landscape itself into its home. Around the year 1200, the ancestral Pueblones, often called the Anasazi, engineered communities not on the land, but within it. They constructed breathtaking multi-story dwellings tucked deep beneath massive sandstone overhangs, their stone walls appearing to grow organically from the cliff face. These were not simple caves, but sophisticated architectural marvels built from hand-cut sandstone blocks and a mud mortar that has held strong for over 800 years. The choice of location was a stroke of genius. The massive rock shelves above acted as natural roofs, shielding the villages from snow, rain, and the scorching summer sun. This natural insulation, combined with the thermal mass of the stone walls, created a remarkably stable indoor climate. The structures stayed cool during the blistering desert days and retained precious warmth through the cold nights. But the architectural intelligence went even deeper. The builders possessed a profound understanding of solar alignment. They positioned their homes and designed their kivas, their sacred circular chambers, to capture the low-angle winter sun for warmth, while the deep cliff recesses provided shade during the intense heat of summer. This passive solar design required no energy, only a deep and observant connection to the rhythms of the sun. Beyond comfort, the location offered unparalleled security. accessible only by precarious hand and toehold trails or retractable ladders, making the communities nearly impregnable to outsiders. Every aspect of their design speaks of a society that saw itself not as separate from the environment, but as an integrated part of it. They did not fight their harsh surroundings, they listened to them, learned from them, and built in harmony with them. In an age of sprawling concrete and climate control, these ancient stone cities stand as a silent, powerful lesson in sustainable living, a blueprint for building a future that works with the world, not against it. Yet for all the defensive genius of cliffside dwellings and towering obelisks, true power in the ancient world often flowed through the sea, and no one mastered the maritime domain quite like the Carthaginians. Their greatest achievement was not a single ship, but an entire port engineered for absolute dominance, a marvel of military and logistical planning that became the envy of the Mediterranean. The heart of their naval power was a circular, artificial harbor, a fortress for ships hidden right in the center of the city. From the sky, it would have looked like a perfect, shimmering circle of water, a giant stone donut brimming with the masts of 200 warships. A single, narrow entrance channel connected this inner, military basin to the larger, bustling commercial port, which itself was separated from the open sea by a formidable wall. This design was pure strategic brilliance. Any approaching enemy would first have to breach the outer commercial harbor, a chaotic maze of merchant ships and docks, before even glimpsing the hidden military core. And by the time they did, the Carthaginian fleet could be launched swiftly and in perfect order from its protected ring. The inner harbor was not just a parking lot for boats. Its circular perimeter was lined with massive, vaulted boathouses, each one large enough to shelter a full-sized warship. Above these dry docks stood elegant columns, forming a continuous colonnade where admirals could observe the entire fleet at a glance. This was a machine for war, a perfectly organized and self-contained system for building, repairing, and deploying naval power with ruthless efficiency. It allowed Carthage to control trade routes, project its influence across the sea, and protect its vast mercantile empire for centuries. The Romans, who ultimately destroyed the city, were so impressed by the harbor's design that they allegedly copied its core concepts for their own naval bases. The circular harbor of Carthage stands as a powerful testament to how innovation is often forged in the fires of competition and fear. It was infrastructure as a weapon, a silent, stone declaration that the key to an empire was not just a strong army, but a safe place for its navy to call home. Yet the Carthaginian harbor, a fortress of stone and sea, could not preserve the memory of a single human face. For that, we must travel to the arid coasts of ancient Peru, where a civilization turned wet clay into a gallery of immortal individuals. The Moch people, who flourished 2,000 years ago, left behind one of archaeology's most intimate and haunting treasures, portrait vessels. These are not simple pots with generic human features. They are unmistakable portraits, each one a unique, carefully sculpted face. You see the set of a jaw, the curve of a lip, a furrowed brow, even distinctive hairstyles and headdresses that mark status and identity. The realism is breathtaking, capturing a spectrum of human expression, from serene confidence to weary resignation, from youthful vigor to the wrinkled wisdom of age. This was not mass production. Each vessel was a meticulous creation, built around a globular body that could hold liquid, with a stirrup-shaped spout rising from the top. Artisans used precise coiling and molding techniques, sometimes even pressing real human faces into soft clay to capture an exact impression before refining the details with delicate tools. The firing process in open pits had to be perfectly controlled to preserve every subtle contour. But these were far more than just artistic masterpieces or fancy containers. They were deeply spiritual objects found almost exclusively in elite burials and ceremonial contexts. Many scholars believe they depict revered ancestors, powerful leaders, or perhaps even captured warriors. They served as a tangible link between the living and the dead, a way to keep the presence and memory of an important individual actively involved in the community's rituals. To hold one is to feel the weight of that connection, to stare directly into the eyes of a specific person who lived, loved, and ruled centuries ago. These vessels shatter the anonymous, monolithic image we often have of ancient cultures. They remind us that history is not made by faceless civilizations, but by individuals, each with their own story etched forever in clay. These astonishing creations were not the work of simple or primitive people. They are the products of brilliant minds that observe the world with a sharp and curious eye, solving complex problems with elegant solutions. From the celestial clockwork of the Antikythera Mechanism to the self-healing chemistry of Roman concrete, these inventions force us to abandon our modern arrogance and see the past not as a dark age, but as a vibrant tapestry of innovation. The spark of genius has always been a part of the human story, flaring up in different times and places, often with a sophistication that rivals our own. Each one of these 30 marvels is a doorway into a different way of thinking, a testament to the incredible diversity of human creativity. They prove that progress is not a straight, upward line, but a winding path with forgotten branches and lost valleys of knowledge. In their quiet, enduring presence, these artifacts offer a profound lesson for our own future. They show us that the most sustainable solutions are often those that work in harmony with nature, not against it, and that the greatest breakthroughs can come from observing the fundamental truths of our world. The past is not a closed book, but a library of forgotten wisdom waiting to be rediscovered. Which of these lost inventions left you the most amazed? Let us know your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to join us on our next journey into history's hidden